and very kind person in her soul. And that's what makes me so honored to know her. She is our Region 1 rep and the coach of a world and Olympic athletes. Cassie Rice.
Step stool. Okay, I do a lot of these speeches. This is the first time I really have some nerves and anxiety because this topic is hard for me. But I'm going to get through it. So, as Kelly said, I own Gymcats here in Las Vegas, and I coached Tasha Schweikert to the 2000 Olympics. That's kind of what I'm most known for. I went to Oklahoma Gymnastics, and my husband was on the men's team, and I married him, Mike Rice. And my two daughters, Taylor and Lauren. Taylor went to Stanford on a full gymnastics scholarship, and Lauren to Sacramento State. And then my two sons, Becca and Regan, we adopted them at 11 years old in 2010, and now they're in college from Uganda, like Kelly said. And then for 50 years, I'm 51, and for 50 years of my life, I lived in some ignorant bliss. And over just the last year is where I've learned a lot. The reason I say I lived in ignorant bliss is because I was quote-unquote successful. And part of what I define as success now has changed. So I wanted to help share that message of what I've learned because frankly I thought I pretty much knew everything. Since I've been in it 50 years, I was really open-minded, always open to learning, always attending all different congresses. I knew I was open to learning and I thought I kind of knew most everything. And then this last year I was kind of blindsided with what I didn't know. Gymcats was known as very successful. We have 1,800 students, 350 off-site. We are out of debt completely. We have actually too many customers, which is a nice financial problem because we have, good income, but not a financial problem, but it's not a financial problem. We have dozens of scholarships. I coached an Olympian. She also was an elite national champion. We won Program of the Year for Region 1 multiple times, all these accolades. And then I find out some of these things that occurred in the last year with my athletes, and it was very hard. But they always assured me, all of these other coaches, my athletes, even Tasha was saying, but you were the nice coach. I was called the nice coach. But I really appreciate what Tasha and Jordan did this year in telling me what they went through, what they suffered through. Because some gymnasts never tell their coaches. And although it was too late for me to help them with what they suffered through, I appreciate that at least I know now. So what a lot of my presentation is about is trying to make it so that your athletes, even your staff, even the people around you, can tell you what they're suffering from or what they're going through and be honest with you, and that you haven't created this culture. So they told me about the suffering they have with Larry Nassar. That was hard. But what was more difficult was even the suffering of just part of what gymnastics did to them. And that was hard because I thought I was doing it all right, So that was hard. What did I do wrong? I learned about the pains that they went through. I learned about suffering that my daughter went through, and then I started calling all my ex-athletes and interviewing them and asking them what they felt. And as I did that and interviewed more elite athletes, I started getting all this information that said we have broken a lot of people, and a lot more than Larry Nassar did. A lot more. So we have to do things differently. So one of the things that I learned that we're going to go a lot in depth is have to do with food and eating. And it's rampant in our country, number one, but in the sport of gymnastics, it's really affected kids long into adulthood. I interviewed these people, and what I'm going to put up on the screen are just some of the quotes that they told me. And I just copied some random quotes that I got from all different did about 3 dozen or so, maybe more, in person, by email, over the phone. And I just listened and listened and listened. And in a way, I want to thank Larry Nasser, which is sad to say and you would never want to say. But he opened up everybody's mind to hear what these kids are going through. Some of the people are in their 60s, and still suffering from things. And so as I speak, we're just going to scroll through some of those quotes, and you can read them or listen to me, but there's just a little bit too much of that still affects them to this day, really long time afterwards. So what I tried to start to do is, why did we have this culture? Why did it evolve this way? And some of what I go back to is Romania and bringing that culture over here. The culture of survival of the fittest. So if you push a mass group of people as hard as you can, that best top kid will survive and be a champion. But what have you done along the way? What have you done to the others who don't make it? And I have a coach who works for me who's from Romania. She went through the system at DEVA, and I brought her in during this year to interview her. And she sat across from the desk and she recalled the story. She's taken away from home, that's their system. When the parents visit, they give them food because they don't get to eat enough, and they hide the food in the toilet tank so that they can't be discovered for doing such a terrible thing as eating the food their parents brought them. Nadia finished the system and became an assistant coach for part of the time, right during the time that this young lady who coaches for me, she's in her 40s now, but she was the assistant coach after that, and she knew all the secrets. So she told the coaches where they hid the food, other things that they were doing. And so Lena, who's the coach who coaches for me, she was relaying this message to me. She said that they punished her by going outside. There's a window from the gym that looks out to a field. It was the middle of summer. She was told to put every warm clothing on, hats, gloves, scarf, mittens, and run in a circle around outside as the coaches watched. The lady who was monitoring her felt so bad for her, she had her try to hide behind trees so that she wouldn't pass out and maybe die. But the main part of this story that got me so much is, as she recounted it this year, she started shaking, like visibly shaking and crying. And I'm like, God, a story that affects her to this day, decades later. It's pretty hard, and she has that feeling still in her. She says, I'm starting to shake as she tells the story. And I never want to make, obviously we don't do that here in the United States. We don't coach like that, but it's the mentality. We need to push them more. We need to make them better. We want the success that Romanians had here, right? And a few things started striking me of what we do. We push the athletes. We ask them to obey us, which my least favorite word in the world, obey. You're never supposed to make your coach mad. We don't talk about if you as a coach made the kid mad, because we don't talk about that. They're not supposed to have any feelings. And an attitude? We would never allow an attitude. So what I feel like we've done is created great soldiers. And part of that is hard for me, because I think had I not done that, I could have maybe helped my athletes who were suffering along the way. And I'm like, what kind of memories do you have? Why did I turn out like this, or what did I do? And one of them was at a clinic. I was watching a coach say, okay, this young lady's never done a front tuck on the beam, and she's gonna get on the high beam, she's gonna do that front tuck right now. She got up, she did a front tuck and slid down the side of the beam, and I was horrified. I said, oh my God. And so she's tearing up, and I'm like, well, she's gonna obviously not have her do that again. And she goes, nope, get up, do it again. She got up, she did it, but she didn't slide down the beam, but fell off the other side. And she goes, no, do it one more time. And she stuck it. And I remember this, watching it, and I'm like, wow, I would never do that, but that's super tough. And the message to me kept being, you better be a little tougher, you better be a little tougher, you better be a little tougher. Steve Nuno, I coached at his gym in the summers when I went to Oklahoma. I taught Shannon Miller at the age of 9 compulsory routines. And every day I'd come in and there'd be some girl crying in the lobby. One lecture I saw him do, and this is in front of all these people, he was talking about the athletes and what he would tolerate, that word tolerate, what I won't tolerate. And he says, I will not spot a girl if she has not shaved her legs. And I was like, wow, would he ever say that about a boy? But why are we bringing that up? And how does that, the power structure, the demeaning of the athlete who didn't shave her legs, the whole message to me wasn't good there. But then we had the year 2000, and Tasha was very talented, and we were going up into the Olympics, and Kelly knows that we went to the ranch every single month. It was very difficult on the kids. In the middle of that, Kathy, Kelly, and Bella, they told me, I really think Tasha should go to another gym. You're not really qualified to coach a kid as talented as her. And I was crying and I was upset. And I went to call Tasha's mom and I said, they want her to go to another gym. And she goes, oh, I know, they just called me. They already called me and told me that. And I was like, oh, wow. Again, the message is, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not tough enough, maybe I'm not strong enough to coach this athlete to where she needs to go. And we have a camp, and the conditioning, I want to relay the conditioning that we did on these days, because my arms, I couldn't even move my arms because the conditioning had so much spotting. 10 pike presses we were on the edge of a springboard, I remember. 10 pike presses, 10 handstand push-ups, 10 planche handstands, 10 straight body lowers, 10 straight body lowers the other way, 10 cast handstands, 10 cast handstands with a full pirouette, leg lifts, rope climb, and then we're dying, and Bella says, do another round. Well, if you hear 10 cast handstands and 10 cast handstands with a full pirouette, that's 40 cast handstands. This is crazy, right? So I go back to my gym, I better be tougher, better push. We gotta do harder conditioning. I'm spotting at the girls with this, insane numbers to me, knowing now. But some of the coaches over the years have said things like, when you're not tough, she's just a JO coach. She's not really an elite coach. And that mentality, I think, was something that stuck with me. You're just a JO coach because you care about the kids' feelings or you're letting them out of it. So I remember vividly some assignments that I had given Tasha. I remember her because she had to do a lot more than everybody else training for the Olympics, but she was obviously struggling, falling off the beam side, falling. And at that point, your psyche gives up. But to me, I was like, well, you're not getting out of it because I'm the god of your assignment. I wrote the assignment. You're going to do the assignment. You're capable of doing the assignment, so you're going to do the assignment. And I wouldn't be a good coach if I let you out of the assignment. I would never do that today. Never coach that way. And I regret that. Nowadays, they have a little elite girl, and I go, you seem like you're struggling. Should we change it? What do you think you should do? Is this too hard? I want you to get better at this, but if this is not the day, let's do it tomorrow. Totally different. But that's not the way I was brought up through the system, so I didn't think that's what I should do. So we go to the Olympic Games, and Tasha went through a lot of suffering there that I didn't know about. Number one, she was starving. She was starving. She didn't tell me that, and that hurts because I would give her food. I mean, you don't want to be starving. Every day was the same workout, and one day they were stretching, the kids, and Tasha told me that Jamie was being pushed down and split by Bella, so it was hurting so bad she started crying, and so Bella called her a baby, and Tasha didn't want to be called a baby, so she pushed her down and tore her hamstring. And it ripped off the bone we found out after the Olympics, which of course, because the good soldier pushes through whatever. And of course, then she also had to go to Larry for treatment, whole cycle. But the saddest part is I didn't know she tore it there. I didn't know he tore it. Because it kind of, she wants to please me. She wants to be what she's supposed to be at the Olympics. And I regret that culture that I created. I'm really, really sorry, you know? Why couldn't she come to me? And that's really hard for me. So, anyway, how many more of these do we have? A lot of the elite athletes who I interviewed, they talk about food a lot. And, you know, Kelly just lost a lot of weight, and I even worried a little bit about saying how, you know, you've lost a lot of weight, because saying that to an adult who has a mature brain is one thing, and that's okay sometimes, knowing the person. Saying it in front of a child can actually affect that child for the rest of your life. Thin is good, I've put on weight, I'm bad. So there's a lot of people suffering all the way through to adulthood. One of the women who's in her 60s said she's still terrified to eat a sandwich, still to this day. Eating disorders can take over your life. I, as a coach, have never heard about eating disorders. We don't talk about kids, we don't weigh kids in, so no one in my world would have an eating disorder. You know, that's not something we would go through. So, there's so many things on these slides. You know, this one just says that she wasn't good with her body till her second child in her 30s. And if you keep telling, in a way, you keep telling them, you know what, you're not quite good enough, you didn't live up enough, you're not quite able to do good enough, it starts affecting them. So, be really careful. Okay, I'll just go through those a little bit more, and then I'll go on to my videos. This is a really long one, but a lot of lifelong effects. Trained on a broken ankle for years, so she had physical and mental effects. Judges telling them, these are all various people, lots of different people, and I didn't put names to anything, obviously. This one, I begged my parents to order dessert because she wanted to watch them eat the dessert. And if you notice our culture with the obsession of a food channel, I don't know if that's going on in a lot more places, but this other one was weighed in 3 times a day. This one's a friend of mine, actually. She said as soon as she got on the floor, she was going to already score 2 tenths lower because she had boobs and a butt. This was back in the day, but, you know, just affected her. And then the bottom one is hard for me because to this day, she says, I don't feel like I'm going to be successful in her job unless she is suffering. And that definitely goes back to her training, especially knowing her coaches and how they coached her. Afraid to fail. They think that, you know, some of them had some good positive suggestions as well, but most of them were expressing the pain that they still feel as an adult. And then the last one, I was told to eat air. Okay, so as I was doing lectures, I was like, well, how can I help coaches? So I made a couple of videos, and they're just to try to educate coaches. I was hoping actually that USAG would put together a course, and the course would go through videos of kind of scenarios that you go, red flag, the parent knows it, the kid knows it, the coaches know it, the administrators know it. As soon as they see it, they know it. So these are some of those videos.
Now remember, these don't count if your legs aren't straight.
These are level 6s.
Maisie, come on.
So don't judge.
We won't be able to go anywhere with these kind of a leg lift. If your leg's tight, tight knees. This is not a break. This is a go time. Go. Come on. All right, I guess we're starting over. You're embarrassing me. I can't even watch this. This is so embarrassing. There's no crying in the gym. You can save your tears for the parking lot. All right, just forget it. Everybody come down. We're done.
I don't know why she was being so mean. I was trying my hardest, but she just kept saying I wasn't trying. I know. We did so many. It's like she doesn't like me or something. I must be really weak.
So one of the things for sure in that one is if they're struggling and they're feeling these feelings, afterwards they're talking. Probably to their parents, but sometimes just to their friends if they can't approach their parents. So this is another one.
Let's go, Leah. You can't be scared of this. You just competed it last year. Leah, it's just a flick. Let's go. Sorry, you're gonna have to repeat that. Of course, wobbles don't count. So try again. This is taking too much time. Let's go. Today, Leah. Okay, that's gonna be a real climb later. We don't walk in this gym. We'll stay here all night if we need to. Ladies, you guys can be done. Great job. Leah, get going.
All they do is yell at me. Like, I might as well quit. I'm not any good. Yes, you are. You're a great gymnast. I'm scared to come back, and I can't even tell my parents. They wouldn't understand.
So it got me thinking, so what is, we actually, when we formed USGCOA, we got into arguments about what a coach's job is. Is it your job? Who thinks it's their job to push kids? Anybody? So I use different words, motivate, influence, but allow them the choice. And the coaches, one of the coaches in the group actually argued with me, if I let them choose, my kids would never condition. And I go, well, first of all, I don't believe that. Second of all, if they don't want to condition, that is their choice. There will be consequences to that choice. They may not reach here, there, or wherever, but that's still their choice. What about pointing out what mistakes they've made? When I go to elite training camp, I'm actually amazed because at the Devo camp, there's a couple and they don't mean anything negative, but it's literally, no, legs will bend, step out, 2 foot, lay out full on the beat, your legs will bend, I'm like, oh, that was amazing, woo, yay! And I'm cheering for the kid because it is amazing, and yes, it's not perfect. She's right, but if only pointing out, mistake, the Positive Coaching Alliance, 5 to 1, you have to fill the emotional tank before you give them the one draining it. Because if you just hear about every mistake they've made, then they don't think they're any good, which leads to all these other problems. Let them know if they didn't give full effort, make them give 100% effort. So they didn't do something, if they didn't do something, then should you tell them, hey, you didn't give 100%? Do you guys know that kids go in waves, human beings go in waves? They don't usually train at 100%, and if they do, there's a fear or there's a problem there. Some people think they should teach the kids how life is tough. Life's going to teach them that. And you're not the parent, and it's not your job. They pay you to go to their gym. I don't think that's your job to teach them about the consequences of life. And that's just my opinion. And should you tell them what their goals should be? I have a kid who's way talented enough to be elite, and she doesn't want to do the work. She wants to go back to 10. Her choice, right? Right? I mean, should you teach them how to eat properly? So we're going to go over a lot of this. These are just a couple of scenarios that I'm not going to leave those up, but sometimes I was going through this, I'm like, yeah, but she caught her Jaeger a month ago for the first time, and now it's 3 months later and she hasn't caught one. What do? The coach just yells at her and gets mad because you already caught it. Why aren't you catching it again? And these scenarios come up over and over where you just want to go, you're so frustrating. But you know what? The kid might be more frustrated than you, right? So there's this real quick story of a dad and his son. I have a friend who's a principal at a school, and she has this teacher who was so frustrated with this kid who was acting out in class every day, acting out, doing all these terrible things. He wanted a parent meeting. So it brought the dad in, and principal brought the teacher in and said, I don't want you to say one negative thing about this kid in this meeting. You just sit there and I'll do the talking. And so she's like, oh my God, but the whole idea was to get this kid to quit acting up and misbehaving over and over and over again, and she was so frustrated. So they sat down and the principal said, you know, he's reading his books and he's doing this well and he's doing that well and doing this well. At the end of the meeting, the dad goes, well, I'm glad you weren't going to tell me he was acting up because I was going to beat the shit out of him. And the teacher was sitting next to him and was like, how did you know? And what the message with that story is just the kids who are acting out the most need the most love. Remember that. When you want to fight them and you're like, that little, you know what, she's not going to win this fight, take a different approach. The kids who are acting out the most need your love and support the most. Okay, and then this is the part of the story that we have not talked about enough in gymnastics, and it's body image. Tasha remembers vividly, this is a story she told me. Marta reached around her shoulders and said, look at Morgan. Morgan White's on the right. Look how good she looked. Wouldn't it be great if you looked like that? And that stuck with her. And it led to a lot of problems. And she's going to come up and talk about what she experienced. Tasha Schweikert.